I was struck also just by, the way that it looked so similar to the Thomas Crook's assassination attempt on the president, finding the rooftop, squeezing off shots from that rooftop with the vantage point. But speaking of politics, not every politician has had the best reaction to this. And I was particularly struck by Illinois Governor JB Pritzker. Now, we spoke about Pritzker last week and the week before. He's a potential contender, he thinks, maybe, for the Democratic nomination in 28. But have a look at this.
I would just say it's got to stop. And I think there are people who are fomenting it in this country. I think the president's rhetoric often foments it.
Now, Mick, this was even too much for the Washington Post, which called Pritzker's a disgracefully ill-timed comment. Has he gone too far with this, and has this damaged Pritzker's campaign against Trump and the Republicans?
Yes, he's gone too far. No, it probably hasn't hurt him, I wouldn't think. Number one, from a practical standpoint, we're so far away from anybody voting. I'm not sure they're going to care much about it. But face it, there's going to be some people who quietly to themselves are very happy that this happened. In fact, there's some people on the internet. You can go find them. They're very candid about how they are.
Oh, yeah, we've spoken about them. Yeah.
And they vote typically in Democrat primaries. So, no, I don't think it hurts JB Pritzker. And that's too bad. It really is. It should hurt him. When the Democrat governor of Illinois gets taken down by the Washington Post, then he's crossed the line.
Yeah. Hey, but I'll tell you what though, Mick, and it's been a really tough couple of days for everybody here. But I spent yesterday with one of my screens just with social media and all the bile pouring across it. But Connecticut young Republicans and young Democrats in Connecticut, I was quite heartened by this story. They've issued a joint statement on social media condemning the killing, saying, "We reject all forms of political violence. There is no place in our country for such acts, regardless of political disagreements." Mick, I'm kind of feeling like there's a little glimmer of hope here. What do you reckon about that?
James, thank you for mentioning that, because I saw that same statement myself, and I was like, this is good. This is what you hope that people will respond to, especially the young people. Keep in mind that Charlie Kirk that's where he made his name for himself, was in high schools and colleges, universities, and so forth. And says to have those two young groups, that young GOP, young Democrats, come out and put out a joint statement is very powerful stuff. I hope it lasts. The broad sentiment is bipartisan here. Yes, you're going to see folks on the left celebrating this. On the internet, you're going to see folks on the right calling for retribution. But I do not get the feeling that is mainstream America or even mainstream Washington, D.C. The large majority of people are hoping we can come together here and do something about political violence. I hope it lasts. It didn't last time, but maybe this time will be different.
But, I mean, even if it's the mainstream, it just takes one extremist, as we've seen, because I see also that Republicans, Democrats, NBC is reporting that both Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on the left and Nancy Mace on the right are ditching upcoming events, bolstering security measures. I'm really worried that in the really rough and tumble political arena of the United States, where people get out there and they're out on the streets and they're doing rallies and they're talking to people, this is going to have a real chilling effect on getting our elected representatives, getting people in public life out in the public. I'm worried about this, and that this is going to have a real chilling effect on Congress, but also across, just political life in general. What's your thoughts about this? Because you have, of course, been a chief of staff. You were Trump's chief of staff. You've been involved with planning events and security and all of these things. Where do you see this going?
I'm worried. I'm absolutely worried, and I'm worried in a very real, tangible, visceral, personal way. James, look, I know we didn't talk about this before the show, but if you did this program in the United States and you were sitting here like I am in New York City, you might think, and probably should think twice about walking home after the show. That's just that's the type of fear that we've got. Look, I know Nancy Mace, I know Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I don't know AOC as well as Nancy, but they're right to be concerned. AOC is right to be worried about a nut job on the right, taking vengeance in his or her own hands. And Nancy's worried about the entire environment, that if it can happen to Charlie, it can happen to anybody. And if it can happen to Charlie, it can happen to anybody.
Finally, I don't want to end on a dark note or a negative note, but I was a little disturbed by this here. There was a moment on the floor of Congress which was a little depressing, because Republicans want to have a moment's silence in the House, but some of the Democrats didn't like this. Have a look at this.
Let's wait a minute. The House will be in order.
Mick, I kind of feel like Congress could learn a few things from those young Democrats and young Republicans in Connecticut.
Again, you don't want to end on a dark note. Now, I am very, very enthusiastic and encouraged by what the young Republicans and young Democrats did in Connecticut, but maybe their parents and grandparents should take a couple lessons from them. Look, if you're wondering how long this sort of atmosphere of bipartisan encouragement of civil discourse is going to last, keep an eye on Congress, because if it starts to change, it'll start to change there first.
Mick Mulvaney, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us on this very somber day. Thank you very much, Mick.
Thanks, James.